Gloves Off is always on point. Bringing you the best on current issues, community affairs, and the happenings around us. This segment of Gloves Off is brought to you by the best, so pay them a visit. Check them out. This is Gloves Off. The following political paid advertisements do not reflect the political opinions of the program or its associates. Any political campaign or candidate who wishes to purchase advertising can do so. Advertising is open to all on behalf of Gloves Off.
We're back at you in Gloves Off, and today I have a great guest. He's a candidate for Texas State Representative. He's Danny Valdez, Judge Danny Valdez. How are you doing?
Well, thank you. Happy holidays.
Happy holidays, Merry Christmas, belated, and
Christmas.
Happy New Year, and I
Yes,
hope
sir.
the best for you this upcoming year.
Looking forward to 2020. I'm very excited about the coming year. So we're out there.
I see you walking. I see a lot of movement from your side. Tell me a little bit about what you've seen in the district. How do you feel?
I feel very positive, Paul, as I've traveled the district. And going back a little bit, I've been at it for close to 2.5, close to 3 years. That we've walked the district, we visited. My method of campaigning has always been grassroots. I started in 1982, and even further back, when I was a kid with my dad, grassroots campaigners, and that's what I've developed. This campaign has been about the people, going out, visiting, sitting down, having face-to-face conversations, sitting down, having coffee, just getting a feel of what their needs are. So I enjoy doing that. The only difference this time is the 6 counties as opposed to only Webb County. But I've enjoyed it because I've met a lot of people. We've exchanged a lot of ideas. We've exchanged a lot of concerns, and that's why I'm running, because I feel that I can make that difference. I was a justice of the peace for 24 years, dealt with a lot of issues. County judge, 8 years, residing over the 6th largest county in the state of Texas. Plus I was in the military, 4 years in the Navy. So I have a cross section of things that I've dealt with. So this district lends itself to that type of campaigning, Paul.
Absolutely. It is. What would you say that? Let's say November next year. They say, you know what, Judge Valdez, you are now elected to become the next state representative. What would you like to do?
One of the things
to change that's here.
If you look at the makeup of the district, Paul, there are 6 counties, rural counties, with a lot of different needs. One of the things that I've said all along that I want to develop is a legislative committee comprised of members from each of the counties. I want to bring the capital to the people and get a feel for what their needs are. If you go to, let's just say Zapata, they have road issues, infrastructure needs. You're talking about water issues. You go to Demet County, different concerns, different issues. You go to Zavala County, there are different concerns also. Law enforcement, you go to Frio County. So there's different needs, but if we develop the legislative committee, we would be able to develop an agenda based on the different needs of the counties and carry that agenda to the Capitol during the session and hopefully address some of those concerns and some of those needs that these counties have.
I was going to say, what is a common need of all the 6 counties?
A common need in infrastructure, the roads. You go to the roads they need funding. They need TX.St.Representative to come down here and visit with them and tell them, look, these are the problems that we have. The roads. You have water issues. People need looking at the different sources of secondary water sources. There's we happen to live in District 80, which is the poorest district in the state of Texas. People are struggling. Minimum wage $7.25. People can't make it. You have a lot of single parent families. Having to work. To make ends meet. Those are the different types of needs and concerns. We met with teachers. Teachers are saturated with paperwork. Across the district. They instead of some of their main concerns is that we want to focus on teaching, but we're saturated with paperwork, the testing. Those are things that we're going to look at. Law enforcement. We go and talk to the firefighters and police officers and sheriff deputies and their concerns with equipment, with different needs, medical issues. We go to Zapata's in dire need of medical facility. So there's different needs, but if you develop that legislative committee, we can deal directly with the needs of each of the counties and carry that message to Austin.
Absolutely. One thing that you mentioned was a lot of the teachers, the educators, they're all complaining about testing. And it is true, it resonates throughout several that I've talked throughout Texas.
Right.
And it's the main concern is all we do is prepare them to take a test.
Right.
They're no longer being prepared to go out. And
Right.
I think somewhere along the line we have dropped the ball. And I think they have to come back to the reality that, you know, we have very poor students coming out in educated wise in comparison to others. And I think we have to start building it. And it's not the educator's fault, so please do not get me wrong. It's the way it's been put out there for to be taught.
I think, Paul, the priorities have changed.
Yes.
You know, I when I was a justice of the peace, I worked a lot with at-risk kids. And you know, there should be funding available to the schools, for the teachers to be able to address the at-risk population.
Absolutely.
The special needs population that I worked a lot with also through the years. So there's my feeling is that there should be funding specifically to address these type of needs at the schools, at the school level. Plus also looking at, like what I mentioned, you know, the testing, you know, I go back to their concerns that they're saturated with paperwork, the testing, and there's nothing wrong with that, that's fine, but to a certain extent. And just focus on educating the kids, the students, you know, and address their needs, their concerns, you know, to make them productive citizens of the community.
Absolutely. One other issue that you mentioned was law enforcement.
Mm-hmm.
What is basically needed within the major portions of this district within law enforcement?
As I've traveled, as I've talked to a lot of law enforcement agencies, their concerns is, of course, you know, equipment, you know, their outdated, you know, vehicles, you know, there's either federal or state grants to be able to help them bring funding to be able to make sure that they're equipped with the latest technology, the latest equipment. You know, working with the federal representatives, you know, there's Stone Garden grants, you know, that are available to be able to focus on supporting our law enforcement, because they're in the forefront. Especially when you look at the district, and you know, the district is, you know, open.
Absolutely.
You know, you've got border counties, you know, that need to have that equipment, you know, the latest technology to be able to address the border security and their security in the counties.
Absolutely. Absolutely, and they're first line of defense, if you want to put it
Correct.
that way.
Correct.
But let's change that in the sense of defense. And there's been a lot of talk. There's been a lot of back and forth, talking about red flag laws and talking about restrictions on the Second Amendment. How do you feel about the Second Amendment?
No, the Second Amendment, you know, we definitely, you know, I'm for the Second Amendment, you know, the right to bear arms. You know, everybody has that right to do that. You know, I'm not gonna come out here and say, no, I'm against the Second Amendment, or, you know, no this and that. No, I'm for it, you know, especially in District 80, where you have, everybody has either guns or rifles, you know. So, you know, I'm for the Second Amendment to make sure that we just need to look at the overall issue of the Second Amendment. You know, one of the concerns that we talked about is the background checks.
Sure.
You know, make sure that they're, you know, I mean, that they're covered. There's no loopholes at all to make sure that, you know, and if the person is, you know, he has a right to bear arms.
Absolutely. Yeah, you know, we talk about the background checks, and just this past Friday, you know, I was after a certain shotgun that I was looking for, and I went to the academy and they had it. And I said, you know what, I'm gonna buy it. And I started filling out the paperwork and so on and so forth, and another man was buying another rifle, and you know, I pulled out my ID and I pulled out my concealed handgun license, and goes, oh, it's a concealed handgun license, and he started giving me the paperwork and everything else. And a lot of people do not understand is that there is a waiting time when you do a background check, and then there is, if you have a concealed handgun license, that's telling people that, you know what, we've already checked them, scrutinized his background for him to be able to carry a gun. and in the state of Texas, you know. So after I was done with all the paperwork, the other gentleman was done with his paperwork, and they said, you're gonna pay, we'll take your gun to the front. The other guy said, well, you know, you can pay in the front, and then you're gonna have to come back later on, we'll call you when you can come back and pick up your gun.
Right.
The guy said, well, how come he gets to take it? And the young lady said, well, because, you know, he has a concealed handgun permit.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of issues with that. So the background checks we do, that's fine. I just don't like to talk about restricting anything, magazines, to types of guns, no, because, you know, a lot of people have a confusion of what the Second Amendment is.
Right.
Now, we're not here to try to debate it or anything,
Right.
but, you know, it's not for hunting.
Right.
It's for the specific purpose of, you know, well-regulated militia, and number one, our rights should not be infringed.
Right.
And I think that when you say that you're for the Second Amendment, it gives a lot of people an ease, because we have a lot of individuals that go in there, and because of a feel of a fad,
Correct.
vote for something that's going to be detrimental in the future.
Correct. Yeah, it just has to be, make sure that everything is covered. Paul, like I said, make sure that if the individual's gonna go either purchase a rifle or a handgun or whatever, that everything is checked, excuse me, beforehand.
Sure.
And make sure that that person is capable of possessing a firearm. There's nothing wrong with that.
No, there absolutely, there's something wrong. I think things have changed. Before, we used to do the form, and they'll keep a form. Now the form is actually on a laptop that is sent off to ATF and sent
Right.
off to everybody else, which to me is a lot better.
Right.
But what else would you like to see in this area?
And a lot of the other issues that as I've talked to people, that, you know, they're concerned about the fact that, you know, they need a representative that's going to be able to help them. As I've traveled the district, you know, people don't even realize who the representative is, you know, and that's sad. You know, and even here, you know, here in Webb County, there's 2 representatives that should be working hand in hand, you know, to be able to push together for the, you know, issues, for an agenda, to be able to pass legislation that helps people. But, you know, I think that, you know, people the fact that they don't know who the representative is really not good. You know, because sometimes they want to sit down and talk and ask questions or give you input as for some of the concerns that they have. So, you know, the fact that you have, and that's one of the reasons that I decided to run, because I lived in District 80. I didn't realize who a representative was. So, you know, I said, wow, you know, that shouldn't happen. But, you know, it's just, people are frustrated, people are upset for different reasons, Paul, you know, and you know, the thing is to be out there and talking to them and making sure that you carry an agenda specifically to help them out. I know it's a representative, there's 150 representatives out there, you know, and you have to work with each other, and, you know, the state is a big state with different issues and different concerns, but as a representative for District 80, then I should be addressing the needs of District 80. You know, and of course, working with the other representatives and the senators. I mean, I know, you know, when I was a county judge here, you know, I worked with commissioners, I worked with district judges, I worked with county court law judges, the sheriff, constable, so I'm able to work with people. But when you have an absent representative, you know, it's not good, you know, especially with a district, you know, when we have close to 33% of the population to live under the poverty line, you know, it's sad. You know, we should be able to have a district where, you know, it's, you know, competitive with the other districts.
And you think right now it's not competitive?
Well, you look at the numbers. This is very, very easy. Just look at the numbers. The numbers don't lie.
What would be the first thing to get it start? What would be the first thing to kickstart it that way? To move it, yeah, to move a little bit further from, especially from that poverty level, bringing more jobs, bringing more businesses here.
Yeah, and that's the other thing, you know, people want jobs, you know, and so that's some of the things that we're going to be looking at. You know, how can we entice companies to come in here and you know, set up shop here in the district, because they're in dire need of jobs. You know, that's the other thing that we're going to be looking at. How can we entice companies to come in? When I was in the county, we brought in the wind energy farms. It was a $700 million investment. But of course, a lot of these companies look for tax abatements. So those are things that you look at. If you're going to be looking at tax abatements, what's the benefit? But the benefit is, of course, jobs. Work with the elected officials. Work with the county judges. Work with the commissioners. Work with the councilmen. That's what it's going to take. To be able to unite and work together with the elected officials of each of the counties. Because we have mayors, you have council members, you have county judges, you have commissioners. So it's a matter of sitting down and developing, like I've said, getting this legislative committee together. We'll be able to carry the voice of the counties to Austin and then develop a really good legislative agenda.
You were talking about enticement to bring forth job. A couple of things that we'll talk about, but that was the first one. The other day I get an email, I'm an executive chef, as you know, and I get an email from Topeka, Kansas. Goes, we will give you $15,000 to move to Topeka, Kansas, plus $25,000 for you to start a business, and we know that you're a chef. So they were targeting people.
Right.
I have yet to see that from Laredo. I have yet to see that from anybody down here in South Texas to anybody elsewhere. And I think a lot of these cities are eating our lunch and have eaten our lunch. And we forgot the bread and the sandwiches somewhere else, and we're just sitting down there twiddling our thumbs. And I think that as the state representatives, in my point of view, of course they do the legislation, but they also have to say, you know what, let's start moving businesses over here. How are you all going to help me bring something good to have employment in your area?
And that's where the communication comes in, Paul. Excuse me. The communication comes in with the different counties, different elected officials, because of course, at the end of the day, you have an idea, or you have you want to promote something, but at the end of the day, it's going to fall on either the commissioner's court or the city council or whatever to make that decision, whether it's an abatement or whether it's to be able to attract businesses to come in and operate in the county, to be able to provide jobs. Because again, that's the other main issue that we look at. Going back to the makeup of the district, jobs. That's what they're asking for.
And you see that everywhere. And I don't blame them, because that's what you need. We have a great university here. We have a great college here. We have several colleges.
Right.
Valdez has them. And where are those kids going to go?
Right.
They're going to be swept away somewhere else. We need to
keep them here.
And you have to start building.
Sure.
And that's what we need. And I think it's the lack of communication. I think it's the lack of not wanting to work. He's Republican, I'm not going to work with that Republican.
Right.
And we don't have that much here in Webb County, but in the other counties, you do have that more split in party lines of the public officials. No, you guys are working for the people. Both of you should sit down and let's work together.
Correct. And at the end of the day, Paul, it's the same pocket.
Of course.
It's the same pocket. So and a lot of times when you talk to people, they're concerned about their pocketbook. If it's gonna hurt me in the pocketbook, forget about it. We're not gonna get involved. We're not gonna go out and vote. And it's important, that we get out the people, we get out, and encourage the people to go out and vote. But to be able to say, this is what I want to do, or this is what I'm going to do, and then you have to produce, you have to do it, because that's the way I've always been. I've always been a hands-on, elected official. I've always been for the people. I've always been, people know what I've done here in the county. Now, hopefully, we can translate that to the district-wide. I'm excited. I've been at it for a while. I know that I can do the job. I know that if I commit to something, I'm going to go ahead and do it. It's different was different because again, it's not only one county, it's in total six counties.
How about this, Judge? How are the people in the other counties accepting you when you go up and say, Danny Valdez, I'd like to have your vote? How are they being receptive?
I think that, here in Webb County, of course, people know me, and even in Zapata
In
County,
Zapata.
yeah, so I have a name ID, they know what I've done, they see my, my track record, they know. As I've traveled, up north, from the north, Dimit and Zavala and Uvalde and Frio, I just have to sit down, I have to sit down and tell them, and show them, this is what I've done, this is my track record, it's there, it's people can see that. But again, it takes that, see what people like, Paul, is, Judge Valdez came to see me, he came to my house. And I said, when was the last time you had somebody knock on your door and sit down and talk to you? So they're getting to know me, and that's why I do that's why I have my grassroots campaign, because especially in the rural counties, they like the candidate or the elected official or whoever to go and sit down and talk to them. So it's introducing myself. But I've been at it for going on close to 3 years. So we planted some seeds. We talk to people as I go back. See, you were here. I remember you coming here to the house, or we talked to you. So this district lends itself to that type of campaigning. So I think people know me now. Just like I campaigned here, out in the corners, or knocking on doors. I've been doing that. In the other counties. So I think that people see that I'm down to earth. It's just them realizing that that's what I want to do. I have a passion to help out. So I think they see that.
Well, that's good to hear, because there's a lot of people out there that kind of are shunned away, and when you get receptive, then that means that people are understanding the message.
Well, in politics, you still have the naysayers. I mean, you're gonna have some naysayers.
Sure.
I've always said the nature of the work that I used to do was, as the justice of the peace, we had to make decisions sometimes that impact the lives of people, and some people don't understand that that's just the job that you have.
Right.
But overall, I think it's more positive, Paul, than negative, because they know that this is something that somebody told me in Zapata the other day. He says, Judge, why are you running for state rep? The position doesn't pay. And my response was, look, I'm not looking for a paycheck. I'm looking to see how I can impact lives, in a broader sense. And I've always said, look, at least give somebody else a chance, an opportunity. Now, if I feel that I'm not being productive, or I feel that I'm not doing what I said I wanted to do, and let somebody else come in and do it. But at least give somebody else a chance to see what they can do.
And that's good to hear. And anything else you want to tell the people now?
No, I just want to thank everybody. I know it's been a long campaign, long process, but what I want to do is help people. That's been my MO since I started. I come from the west side of Laredo. I grew up here, so I know the needs. I've seen the needs. When I was a county judge, one of the first things that I did was to pass civil service. You remember that for the longest time here, or the history of Webb County, people were at will, where people would be fired for political reasons. So we did civil service. Now there's job protection for employees. So we also, when I came in, one of the main things that I wanted to do as county judge was to help the colonias. We were the first ones that collected water, or the water lines to the colonias, to have water for the people. So that's what I've always done is how can we help? How can we improve the quality of life for now the district, as opposed to only one county? So, you can rest assured that, you know, I'm gonna be going out there, continuing my campaigning as far as going out to the people, talking to the people. It's getting short, you know, we you know, early voting starts in February, so, you know, we just wanna encourage people to go out and vote. Exercise that right to have, that you have to go out and vote. You know, you're gonna have a hands-on representative that cares about the people.
Absolutely. And I wanted to invite you also, because on January 8th, we're going to be having a debate.
Sure.
And both you and our state representative are going to be invited. We'll be here.
Okay.
It'll be pre-recorded, then it'll be released, which I think it's something that people can see. And we'll look forward to having you all here. And also, have a good New Year.
Thank you. Likewise, Paul.
And
Thank you. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year. Folks out there, Happy New Year. Remember, if you have too much to drink, pass on the keys or call an Uber or a taxi. Okay? All right, till next time. Peace. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
The following political paid advertisements do not reflect the political opinions of the program or its associates. Any political campaign or candidate who wishes to purchase advertising can do so. Advertising is open to all on behalf of Gloves Off.